excited to welcome our guest because he is an expert on career and calling, if I could say that. He's coming to us from New York. He's a president of the VOCA Center, and he helps train and coach people to be more effective and joy-filled in their workplace. Help me welcome Dr. Chip Roper.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Actually, you forgot my most important title.
What is that?
Devin Roper's dad.
Devin?
Yeah, so.
Torrey students right there.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
That's what it is.
I guess they're there. We can't see anybody.
You
so
can't
I don't
see
know.
anything right now.
So anyway.
I'm always talking to nothing. So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, I almost called you Devin. Well, Chip, tell us how you got started in what you do. Tell us what you do and how you got started.
Okay. Well, it's great. It really is great to be here with all of you. The VOCA Center, we want to rescue people from the forces that rob them of effectiveness and joy at work. We're on a rescue mission. And we know that most of us will get to points in our work lives where we don't know what to do next. We're just not sure what our career should be. And some of us feel like God's silent sometimes in that. Some of us don't even include God in that. But we're going to get to those points where we just don't know what's next. Yeah, the other thing we know is that most leaders are going to get to points in their leadership where they need somebody who is outside of their organization, somebody who's really safe, that they can kind of process how to move forward, how to be better leaders with. Yeah. And so we provide those things. Yeah. Some of them we provide almost free because we have donors that help fund some of those things. And some of those, a lot of the people we work with can pay a fee, and so they get to pay their own fare. But that's what we do. So it's kind of training, coaching, and consulting to rescue people from those forces that rob them of joy and effectiveness at work.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit more about your story. How has your sense of calling shifted maybe from when you're a college student until now?
So it seems like a long time ago when I was a college student. It's changed a lot, and my sense of calling. And so when I was in high school, I wanted to be a rock star.
Me too.
I was quizzing the band about their instruments and stuff.
Yeah.
You guys were great, by the way. And I met my wife in a band. That's where we met. So that was the good that came out of that. But there's a lot. That was a piece of that. But so I was in a band, and I was also a business major, and I had a small company when I was in college. And there was a big shift that kind of happened for me towards the end of college. And I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah, there we go.
We got
Great.
props today.
Yeah, we got props. So when I started out in college, work was what I had a secular orientation to my work. So work was, here we go, real quick. Work was for me, and work was by me. It was my thing, and I had to make it happen, and I decided what I wanted to do. And I ran that way for a while. So the music thing, the business thing, it was all about me.
Yeah.
And I hit a wall, and my relationships were a mess, and I was miserable, and I sort of achieved some of the things I wanted to achieve, and I realized I don't really know how to do this. I don't know how to do my life, and I don't know how to do work. And that's when I went through a spiritual process of figuring out, is this Christianity thing that I was raised with real? It's very normal to go through those types of questions. And I, after a period of about a year, came to the conclusion that Jesus really is who he says he is, and that changes everything. And I shifted into a sacred view of work, which is work that is for God, it's with God, and it also has to have a for others element to it. So, sacred work, I know you guys can't read my writing, I can't either. But sacred work is work that's for God, with God, and for others. And there was a shift in my journey. It was a big shift. And at that time, the people around me said, we think you should be a pastor. So I actually listened, and which I didn't always do. And I went to seminary, and I got a master's of divinity degree, like you, Mike, and I became a pastor. And I did that for about 20 years. And probably about 3/4 of the way through that, another shift was set up. And how many of you, I can't really see your hands, but how many of you had to do chores when you were kids? You know, how many of you have to do as roommates? Good, you know, you're good roommates, you do the chores. Some of you didn't raise your hand. Elbow time. So chores are the work we have to do so we can do what we want to do.
Right.
You know, like they're kind of a means to an end.
Yeah.
I had to do chores since I was a kid. The other thing that I like to do when I was a kid is I like to build tree houses. And they weren't like the fancy ones. They were like more like a couple boards and a plank and a tree. But it involved a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Like I had to organize resources and had to carry things and cut things and pound nails and hit your finger and sweat and all that kind of stuff. It looks a lot like work, but it didn't feel like work. And I call that treehouse kind of work.
Okay.
And all of you have probably had something. It could be video games, could be sports, could be something that really actually you work at, but it doesn't feel like work. And so what happened to me as a pastor, and I didn't think this was supposed to happen, but after about 13 years, it started to feel much more like chore than treehouse.
Right.
And that drove me into a lot of coaching and assessment work and understanding how God made me and understanding better maybe how I was needed in the world. And kind of one of the big things I discovered about myself is that I'm kind of built to be an entrepreneur, to start and build things. And so that kind of, there was an opportunity to exit the church role and to start something new in New York.
Yeah.
And New York City we lived in the suburbs of Philadelphia, which are like rolling hills, green, calm, nice, Amish are our neighbors, buggies, horses, the whole thing. And we moved right into the center of New York City, so it's like insane. It's insanity, The sidewalk in New York is like the freeway in LA. It's like, it's the same thing, right? So we moved into New York, and parts of it have been really scary and challenging, but I'm building something again, starting something new. It's exciting and it's hard, and that's kind of what I love to do.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think what you're trying to say, or what I've heard you say, is something about the sacred-secular divide is not necessarily there. And one thing, my question is, are there stories that you have of maybe people you've coached or trained who live out their vocation or career in the secular field that is honoring to God?
Yeah, the secular-sacred divide's in our minds.
Yeah.
And in our imaginations. It's like the world we imagine ourselves in at work.
Yeah.
Is it just me trying to make this thing happen?
Yeah.
Or is God here, and is it God's purpose? And so I think of two stories real quick. So one guy's name is Mike, and Mike is the managing director of actually the two stories are in the same business, not the same company, but they're in finance. They sell this product called a derivative, which is a way to manage risk. It's very, I don't know, I still don't understand it. You have to really, if you like calculus, you like this. I don't. But anyway, I heard an amen there, good. But Mike is in finance for a small broker-dealer, and his goal is to be a good Christian in finance. And it's really hard because they sell to other companies. The people that throw the best parties get the most business. It's basically the way it works. He's trying to cuss less, which, it's a big deal. So, all the Christians in New York cuss. I don't know what the deal is with that, but you can pray for them. But he's trying to cuss less. He's trying to be honorable. Lying is kind of a normal part. His clients want him to lie on a regular basis, and he's wrestling with the ethics of that. But a couple of things he's doing. So one example is he has a team member who is not performing.
Yeah.
And usually they just fire people that don't perform. And so Mike has actually brought us in to help this team member figure out how he's wired and how he can perform better. And so they're showing grace. And another way Mike lives his faith is we're part of a men's group. It's all across the country, guys. It's actually called the New Canaan Society. We have chapters all over. But Mike hosts a meeting of this group, about 30 guys, in his office once a month. He pays for dinner. And everybody in his office is like, what's the deal? What's this group? Yeah. And it's a big risk to identify as a Christian. Because he's probably the only Christian in his office of 100 people. So that's Mike. Another person, April, she's in the same business, different company. And she's really into generosity.
Yeah.
And she uses her capacity as a finance executive to generate. She makes a lot of money. Yeah. But she's very, very aggressive in giving it away. Yeah. And she even started a restaurant that hires people that are coming out of prison. So she takes her colleagues to the restaurant, tells them the story. She even takes her colleagues to an orphanage in Haiti. And so things that we all consider normal, being generous and missions trips, they've never heard of any of that stuff. So she just brings them along. And that's how she's kind of raised the flag that, hey, I'm a Christian, I'm different.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's not what you do necessarily. It's kind of like how you do and the values you bring into it.
I think generally that's really true.
Okay.
It's not what you do, it's the way you approach it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, our students are starting off their vocational journeys. They're choosing majors, their co-curricular activities, internships, and things like that. Is there any foundational advice as we launch into our career pursuits?
Right. And I'm going to throw another chart at you.
Please.
And you guys can throw in questions about this, and we can spend more time on them if you want, if it's helpful. But here's the big idea about figuring out what work you're supposed to do. You're trying to find the connection between the real world and the real you. And you're going to have to renegotiate it over and over and over again. It's not a once and done. You don't find your lane and stay in it for the rest of your life. That's just not the way work works anymore. And so on the real you side, I know you're taking in a lot at school, and you've got all these subjects, and you've got to learn the subject and then spit it back out on your tests. I understand that. I've been over and over again in school myself. But while you're here, I would urge you to learn as much as you can about yourself. What really feels like, what clicks with you? What, in the process of getting a college education, do you show over and over again that you do well? We talk about abilities as the foundation for the real you, like really knowing your talent. And then you move from there to your skills, which are the things you've learned. And if you build skills on your abilities, like if you have musical talent, it's much easier to learn an instrument than if you don't. Otherwise, if you don't have ability, you just have bad karaoke, right? Then we like to talk about your passion and the things that really just sustain your interest and concern over time. Not just short things, but long term. And the last is boundaries. That can be values, it can be things, principles you want to honor. But if you can keep a journal while you're in school and start to learn about the real you, what kind of feedback do you get? What kind of things do your friends say, boy, you really do that well, that kind of thing. It's going to help you a lot. And the other side of it is the real world. So you have a career fair coming up.
Yes.
And that's an opportunity to understand what's really out there, because a lot of times we really don't know what's out there, especially if you're in science or engineering or some other fields where you just don't get to see that every day. But what we tell people to do, and we tell our clients pay us to tell them to do this, we tell them to go find people they can interview who are doing things that they might find interesting and learn 3 things. So one is you want to see if this job could be a fit for me. Does it fit me, this job or this company? The second thing you want to learn is what are the opportunities in this field? I can't spell opportunities, but sorry.
Close enough.
I need a spell checker on the flip chart because you don't want to spend a lot of time trying to get a job in an industry that's just going to go away. That's part of the hard part about work. Industries are going away and industries are being born. And the last thing you want to know is what are the steps I need to take to get there, to get a job there. And so that's hard when you're in college and you're really busy to find ways to learn about what's really out there. But career fairs is one way to do it. Thinking about who your friends, your parents, church people, professors know that you could actually just talk to. Most people would love to talk to you about what they do. They really don't mind. So that's what I would say. I say, in the midst of everything else you guys have going on, try and figure out, map out what's the real me, what's the real world, where could they come together?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, hey, so we're going to get to your guys' questions, all right? And so here's our first question. What are your thoughts on graduate school, Chip? How does discerning what career is right for you map onto potentially investing into more education?
So there's 2 factors on that. One is it gets back to this, real you, real world. So on the real you side, some of us are wired to we just like to develop expertise. And so grad school is an easy win for us. Like we just want to go deep, and that's how we're made. Some of us really don't. And we might still need to do grad school, but it's not going to be as clear. But that's on this side. On the other side is exploring the real world. So my oldest daughter is into bioscience, and she's into bioscience. And she was really struggling with whether to go to grad school or not. And we just had a conversation about, well, who is doing what you want to do? And what degrees do they have? Because she's not like a super nerd. I know some of you are, but she's not a super nerd. She's just like a medium nerd, and she likes science, but she also likes working with people. But what she discovered was that everybody who's leading a lab, leading a research project, the kinds of things she'd want to do, has a PhD. And she just realized, I got to suck it up and get a PhD.
Dang.
And she started hers this September, and she's loving it, so it's great.
Okay. All right. Here's another question.
Great question.
What is the difference between calling, vocation, and career?
Okay. I kind of use calling and vocation as interchangeable because they come from the same word. Vocation is from, I think,
Vocare.
vocare, which is the Latin for calling. And that's the idea that God invites us and summons us into a number of different commitments and ways of living our lives. I think your career should be an expression of your calling. And sometimes we draw it like this. You got your job, and then your career, and then your calling is even bigger than that. And your career will probably change, actually. I've heard that for most of us, if you're in college now, your career will probably change 3 or 4 times at least over your lifetime, and your job may change multiple times. And we would say calling is about more than our work.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, actually, big idea is Jesus calls us into a relationship with himself.
Right.
That's the primary calling. And then that plays out in our work, in our families, in our spiritual community, and as we love our neighbors. So there's subsets of that. Great question.
Great. Here's another question. What are some signs that you are pursuing a job centered around you and not God? How can we tell we are glorifying God in the process of business?
So some of it really is attitude, and I get a chance to fill in the chart.
I love that you brought a flip chart.
Yeah, I like the flip chart.
Yeah.
This is called analog, right? It's not digital. Sorry. None of you laughed. I apologize. Only the old people laughed in the room. I get it, yeah. But how do you tell if it's not centered around you? So some of it is just your attitude and your framework. And when I was in that kind of mode, I knew. I really knew. I was making all the decisions. I wasn't doing any serious spiritual seeking about it. And if you got in my way, you were my enemy. If you were blocking me from my success. Another way we could kind of look at it is and the effect it has on us. And so if you're in a secular way of working, and it's the work you're doing is a chore, work is just 100% grind. You're just grinding it out. Like, you hate it, it sucks the life out of you, but you're doing it all by yourself, for yourself. If you're in a secular frame of mind and you love what you're doing, work becomes your God. And that's what, like, anybody that gets in your way is the enemy, and you blow them up, however you do that. You know, you avoid them, you criticize them, you cut off your relationship with them. And you can tell just by what makes you angry and what you're scared about. So if you're in a secular sacred frame of mind with your work, and then work as a chore, and some of it's always going to be that way, you see the chore parts of your work as an opportunity for growth. Because God's in it. And he's going to take care of you. And even if it's not maybe your first choice or you don't love it, you know he's growing you and preparing you for things in the future. And when you get the Treehouse, you view your work as a gift. And many of even senior people that we get to interview who are, like they're big-time CEOs and stuff, they're like, I don't really know how I got here, and they're not obnoxious. They're just very grateful, and they've seen it as a way that God has made them and that they get to use their gifts. So I think that's good. Next question. Guess it's time to move on.
They all start with G. Just want to point.
They do. Well, I was a pastor.
You were a good one then, okay? Here we go. What should you do when your passion does not match with your ability? Oh, dang, we got a woes here. I like that. All right.
That's really tricky because sometimes you can engineer it so that you find something in your passion that does match your ability.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of time, so I'll just use. So I was a pastor, and I have an ability to be an entrepreneur. I'm not a good chaplain. And my career coach said, you're not really a pastor. You're not built like one, because I'm not a chaplain. But my entrepreneurial gifts were really good in a church that needed to be turned around and grown. So there was a way to kind of create a connection between passion and gifts. And I think that when we really dive into some of the data, we usually can figure that out. In fact, we often find with our clients that what they would describe as an unfulfilled passion is almost always an unutilized talent or ability. They're very, very closely linked. Now, if you're the kind of person that you're just enthusiastic and you get excited about all kinds of things, well, you probably have 50 passions a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to take a little bit of time to sort through which ones are really like core to who you are and what you believe. So we throw that word around a lot, the passion word around a lot.
Right.
It's number 3, if you guys remember on this. It's not number 1 because we think it shifts a little bit too much to make your core decisions on. How do you know when you've become the real you?
Oh, okay, yeah. That's my part.
Sorry.
Okay. Here's the next one. I don't. Are you asking me?
You bought me a very large cup of coffee.
Okay,
and I'm like flying this morning.
Let's do this. Well, Chip, how do you know when you become the real you? Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, tell us the answer.
No, you're the expert here.
I'm the expert.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when I get there. No, that's not a good answer. I think I don't know. I feel like, for me, it's a combination of facts and feeling.
Yeah.
And, like, in my VOCA, this thing I'm doing, it's only been in the last year that we've really put some things in place where we're going to try and grow this as a larger organization that's going to have a team and all these other things. And I felt like, yeah, this is the real me. But I know the facts about me, but I also, now I'm seeing them expressed.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of comes back to facts about me, real world. It's happening in real time somehow.
Yeah.
And it's about knowing. Like my friends that used to know me, see me, what I'm doing in New York, a lot of them are like, oh yeah. It's really important to have people speaking into our lives that know us. And they're like, oh yeah, I could see this. So you've got this data, but you also have this feeling. There's a Hungarian psychologist whose name I can't say. It's like Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, like that. It really is that long.
Okay.
Trust me. And he describes this state called flow, where we're fully engaged, and when you get the little chills up and down your spine, like you're just fully engaged in what you're doing. And I think there's this combination of facts and feeling, facts and flow.
Yeah. All right. Here's another question. Is it bad to have a job that's a chore if it allows you to do treehouse work on your own for fun?
No. How's that? Short answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's the idea. The calling is bigger than
Yeah.
even your job or career.
And I think it was John Calvin said that, ultimately everybody has the same calling, which is to use he called them endowments, but it's usually, I think that's a combination of abilities and skills and even experiences for the maximum good of your neighbor.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say to that is your chore job really is it really helping you maximize your benefit to others, or are you just phoning it in?
Yeah.
And being too easy on yourself?
Yeah. Great. Here's another question. Do callings change or just how they are lived out?
It depends a little bit on how you frame it. I think, and we were talking about this at breakfast, I really don't feel called to be a pastor anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's changed.
Yeah.
And I think I could do the most good by building a business that pays for itself, that keeps us engaged in real-time work, which most pastors don't get to do. But I still do pastoral things.
Right.
So I think it can change. I mean, God is the caller.
Yeah.
We're the callees. Like, it sounds weird, doesn't it? But we're the callees. We're the ones that are called. So it's up to him. He gets to decide. And he can say, no, I don't want you to do that anymore. I want you to do this.
Yeah. So your career might have shifted, but your calling as an entrepreneur and as a person who's going to build things for the kingdom's sake is.
In that sense, it's still
somewhat similar. Okay, great. Here's another call. Or I have a question for you.
All right, Mike has a question.
Oh, you know what? Let's do this then. Okay. It wasn't on the screen. Okay, here we go. What are the steps we can take to bridge the gap between secular and sacred mindsets?
That's a really important question. So much of this is how we see our work, and with all the work you guys have to do at school, it's probably hard to think about thinking about your work and the way you do your work, even your schoolwork. But I think it's Psalm 127 says, "Unless the Lord builds a house, the labor in vain. Unless God protects the city, the watchmen guard it in vain." And so God's saying, like, you're building, but I'm building with you. You're protecting, I'm protecting with you.
Yeah.
And we just have to constantly find ways to remind ourselves that we are not alone in our work, that God is with us. And so I know you guys hear this stuff all the time, but The people that I know who are doing that, they have figured out how to have a devotional life that actually fills them up. They're not checking a box because they go to a Christian college. They're actually figured out how to connect with God. Yeah. They have real friends who encourage them in their spiritual life. They do some real thinking and reading about their work. And it's something that they, like you eat every day. They feed themselves and feed that perspective. It's the only way it'll stick.
Yeah, great. Well, here's another question. If not, I want to ask then. I get to ask my question. Like, I feel like a lot of people are confused right now as students, like with calling such a big word. Is there any advice that you might have for our college students just to think through? This is how you can approach it and journey into that idea of calling.
Well, I think I said it earlier, like we know most of us are going to get to points in our journey where we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So relax. It's really normal. I had a college student client, and she felt terrible because all her friends were posting on Facebook, or Instagram. All the parents were posting on Facebook, and all the kids are posting. I know. Anyway, they're all posting somewhere about what they're going to do after college, and she didn't know, and she felt terrible, and kind of ashamed, actually, of not knowing what she wanted to do after college. Guys, it's normal.
Yeah.
So take a deep breath. The second thing is work a plan.
Yeah.
You have a plan to figure this out. Don't just assume that God's going to like zap you and it's going to be really easy. It's actually not usually easy.
Right.
But then the last thing is, relax, work a plan, and at the end of the day, go with the opportunity that seems best. Mm. Because most of the senior people I know, they would say, don't spend too much time on the you side. Run with opportunity. Do well with whatever opportunity you get, even if it's a chore. Mm-hmm. God's going to always honor that, and it's going to lead to more opportunity. So it's very opportunity driven rather than just self-reflective driven.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah. That's good. Well, Chip, the question we ask at the end of our time is always, what biblical principles shape your ideas of today?
Well, there's a lot of them, but I think Ephesians 2:10. Yeah. Is really important verse for us in this. And it says that God has created us in Christ Jesus. We're his workmanship. God has created us in Christ Jesus to do the works he planned in advance for us to do. Yeah. And I think sometimes we churchify verses like that, and why do we do that? Why can't it apply to everything we're supposed to do in our lives? Yeah. Everything we're supposed to do, no matter what kind of work, is the good work that God has planned for us to do. So we can relax. We can be active in seeking out what that work is, what that plan is, and then as the opportunities unfold, jump in.
Love it. Help me thank Chip Roper for being with us today.
Discover who you're called to be at Biola University, a leading Christ-centered university in Los Angeles, with programs on campus and online. Subscribe for more of our videos and learn more at biola.edu.